Number 12, given sine x equals 7/25, and we're told that x is in between pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2, so we're going to sketch this. Pi over 2 to 3 pi over 2, that means we're going to be using the second or third quadrant. We're told sine is positive, so what quadrant are we in? We're in the second quadrant, because sine would be negative. Sine's our y value. Sine is opposite 7 over hypotenuse 25. Now technically, this angle here is x. But as long as we take into account the positive or negative of the lengths, that's either the horizontal or the vertical, your radius, your hypotenuse will not ever be negative for anything that we're going to do. So as long as we take into account positive and negative, we're perfectly fine. So what we want to do is we'll call this about a. So a squared plus 7 squared equals 25 squared. Does anybody know what this answer is without thinking? This is another common one. So we have 625 minus 49, and we get 576. And the square root of 576, now technically we have plus or minus, but do we include both of them? No, we can only include one of them. And the question becomes, which one? Square root of 576 is 24. Is it the positive or negative? Well, you have to look and see what quadrant are you in. We're in the second quadrant, so A is negative. So now we can say cosine is adjacent, negative 24 over 25. Secant would be the reciprocal of that, or hypotenuse over adjacent, so negative 25 over 24. I do not want to see you put 25 over negative 24. That negative goes out in the front or to the top. Cosecant's 1 over sine. Sine's opposite over hypotenuse, so it's hypotenuse over opposite. Tangent, opposite over adjacent. So 7 over 24, and it is a negative. And cotangent would be adjacent over hypotenuse. So now we've done 2 of these, and we'll do look at one last one. After this, they're all basically the same. Cosecant x equals negative 2. So we set this up. What quadrant? Again, we're in the either second or third. It's a negative. And cosecant's 1 over sine, so we must be in the third quadrant. The cosecant 1 over sine, sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so this will be hypotenuse over opposite. Now, I told you in the previous one, the hypotenuse is not negative, so this will be 2, because this can be written 2 over negative 1. So the opposite will be the negative 1. We can use our Pythagorean theorem if you don't know what the answer is right away, and we can call it a again. So a squared plus 1 equals 4, a squared equals 3, a equals plus or minus square root of 3. Which one do we want? We're in the third quadrant. The a value, the x value is negative, so it has to be negative square root of 3. So then cosine would be negative square root of 3 over 2. And cotangent would be adjacent over opposite. So it'd be negative root 3 over negative 1, or in other words, just square root of 3. Now my question for you is, what is x? Do you recognize that based on these numbers? Notice it's 1, 2, root 3 triangle. So the inside part of the triangle here must be what angle? Opposite the small side would be the small angle, so that would be 30 degrees. We add 30 to 180, which is the horizontal line. So what is x? X is 210 degrees, so write that down. And with that, I am done with these notes. You can notice that there was another page for day 2. If you look at that first problem, really it's the same basic thing as 11, 12, 13. You need to know these problems 11, 12, 13. Then when we get to those next sections and whatnot, you need to be able to refer back to these because the process is the same. The only thing that changes is which function you're given and which one you're trying to find. And then as far as the next problem 2, those are more practice for your unit circle.